decisions against. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Galentine and Dr. Fuller are excused. Please call the roll.
Mr. France?
Present.
Mr. McMath?
Here.
Mr. Weaver?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Mr. McMath, and a second?
Second.
Mr. Weaver, and are there any additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda?
An addendum to the agenda in the treasurer's section for the Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital sports medicine contract for an athletic trainer agreement, and it is at a $0 value.
And that agreement was in the drive today, correct?
Yes.
So 7P will be the agreement with Cleveland Clinic to provide sports medicine athletic trainer services, correct?
Yes.
Any other additions, deletions?
Hey, Dave, I need to, under Section 8, substitute teachers and classified substitute, need to remove those this month for a later date.
The whole thing or just certain ones?
I don't know.
Let's eliminate Wendy McMath, or Wendy McAfee
Certain ones. Yep.
from substitute teachers. And under classified substitutes, Wendy McAfee and Pat Finley. Those two are being removed this evening. All interpretations are our in-laws are not covered by the ethics laws as far as offering folks jobs. But Pat Finley is my mother-in-law, and Mrs. McAfee is Todd's sister-in-law, and it's just going to be better when there's 5 people here to take the vote and not have to worry about making a mess out of things. So we will hire those 2 folks at a later date.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any more additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda? Please call the roll.
Mr. McMath?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. France?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting dated June 20th and the special meeting dated June 28th.
So moved.
Mr. Weaver, and is there a second?
Yep.
Mr. McMath, any questions, corrections? Please call the roll.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. McMath?
Yes.
Mr. France?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Now down to why the bulk of you are here, and we're always glad to have this go on. Our athletic director is going to come on up and help us recognize some high-achieving students in the district.
Well, congratulations to all of you. And I know if you think, oh, my land, I remember my father-in-law, when he was athletic director here, he told me he had to go to court one time. And I was like, oh, wow, like real court? And he was like, well, he had to come to a board meeting. So I know sometimes it can feel a little bit official here, but it's not. At the end of the day, they have a lot of official business. But, I want to congratulate all of you guys. Sometimes spring sports, by the time we get around to the spring, sometimes you guys don't always get the recognition that you deserve. I appreciate you guys coming here in the summertime. I know some of you are getting ready for college, a lot of parents, vacations, etc. So I want to thank all of you for coming. I hope that I get all of your names correctly. Not everyone is able to be here this evening. So if they're not here, that's okay. I'm still going to recognize them. And I'm going to try to get to a location here. I'm just going to say, to watch this little cord right here. So we'll start off with Owen Brady, who I got an email from his dad, isn't able to make it here today, but I did want to congratulate him for being first team Division I All-Ohio. He got 8th place at the state meet. He got the school and county record in the 1,600 meters. He was also district champion and ECOL champion for Owen Brady. Next, we have Chance Reniker. Is Chance here this evening? Okay. Congratulations, Chance. Chance was ECOL champion in the 200 and also district champion in the 200. Congratulations, young man. There you go. Now Next, we have Trevor Bean, who was ECOL champion in the 400 meters and district champion in the 400 meters. Is Trevor able to make it this evening? No. Okay. All right. Next, we have Oren Martin. Owen Martin is here this evening. Congratulations. He was the district champion in the 300-meter low hurdles. Congratulations. Next, we have Evan McInturf. And Evan McInturf was ECOL champion in the long jump. So congratulations, Evan. Great job. Next, we have Reese Meekin, and he is the district champion in the long jump. So they just kind of switched that up. Next, we have Caden Shellis. Is Caden here? Caden was ECOL champion in the high jump and district champion in the 800 meters. Next, we have Thad Van Arsdalen, and Thad was district champion in the pole vault. Next, we have Coach Jeremy Rogers, and Coach will come up. I wanted to let everyone know he was ECOL Coach of the Year. They had an undefeated dual and tri-season. They were also ECOL champions. They were also Division I East Southeast District champions. They also won a couple of other invites, but we'll save that. So congratulations. Great job. Next, we had in our girls track, we have Cambrie Mushroush, who was ECOL champion in the 1600 meters, the 3200 meters. She was also district champion in the 1600 meters and 3200 meters. And it looks like she's not able to make it this evening. And we also had Alyssa Miller. Is Alyssa Miller here? And Alyssa was ECOL champion in the long jump. So we wanted to recognize her. And we also have Caitlin McConnell, who was also district champion in the high jump. So, okay. Now we're going to go into, these are almost too many to list, so I'll have you sit until I get through them all, Julie, okay? Julia Miller, as you guys may know, is probably one of the most decorated athletes to come through New Philadelphia in a long, long time. She's going to be playing at Ohio State next spring, but just to go through, and I'm sure this doesn't include some other records that may or may not still be getting updated, but the ones we have so far, she was first team Division I All-Ohio. She was first team East District Player of the Year, first team OVAC 5A Player of the Year, first team ECOL Player of the Year, OVAC Senior Ohio versus West Virginia All-Star Game participant, and also the Eastern District Senior All-Star Game participant. So congratulations. Good luck with Columbus. I couldn't have picked a better school for you. Next, we have Reese Loveday. And Reese Loveday was recognized as honorable mention, Division I All-Ohio, first team East District, first team OVAC 5A, and first team ECOL. Congratulations. And I must admit, on a side note, she has her favorite walk-up song too for the in softball, which I think is pretty cool. Next, we have Ellie Mason. Is she here this evening? No, Ellie. Okay. Ellie was first team OVAC 5A and first team ECOL. Next, we have Madison Wright. Madison Wright was first team honorable mention. I'm not sure. First team, I think she was first team East District. It says on there first team All Ohio, but I think that might be a misprint. Okay.
We will get that.
I apologize. Yeah, there you go. And next we have Coach John Duffke. And Coach John Duffke was East District Coach of the Year, ECOL Coach of the Year, OVAC All-Star Game Ohio Coach, and East District All-Star Game Coach. Next, we have Brenton Billman. Is he here this evening? Yes, Brenton. So Brenton was second team Division II All-Ohio, first team East District, first team ECOL. He was at Augusta All-Ohio All-Star Game. He was also at the East District All-Star Game, and he signed a baseball letter of intent to play at Otterbein, correct? Carter Vandal. Is Carter here? Nope, Carter wasn't able to make it this season. He was first team East District and first team ECOL. Next, we have Nathan Schumacher. Nathan wanted to congratulate him for signing his letter of intent to play at Malone University. Congratulations. Next, we have on the coaching front, we have, this is a special honor, I think, for us, because one of the things that we like to emphasize, everybody loves to win, we all know that, but I think this is a very special recognition for one of our coaches, Coach Gwen Fowler. If she would come up, please. Coach Gwen was recognized as being the 21-22 OHSAA Sportsmanship Ethics and Integrity Award winner for ladies cross country. So congratulations. Great job. I also want to congratulate here this evening as we had a couple other letter of intents that were signed. One was Jaden Lowry. I want to recognize him. Come on up, Jaden. And Jaden signed his football letter of intent to play at Washington and Jefferson College. And finally, we have Elliot Warner, and I'm not sure if Elliot was able to make it. So Elliot wasn't able to make it here this evening. He also signed his football letter of intent for the University of Mount Union. And I did want to recognize, I did notice Coach Weisel out there. I did want to recognize the baseball team for getting a district championship this year. And although they didn't get recognized for Coach of the Year, in my book, that's a very good job for doing that as district coach.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. So congratulations. And I apologize if there's any certificates or anything like that we need to switch. We'll get those fixed and get it taken care of. But just so you know, in general, you're either recognized for being first team East District, first team ECOL, or above for that. So that's why we honor all those people here. So we had a fabulous spring, and congratulations to all of you.
Mr. Fortney, it's always for us to be able to recognize our high-achieving students, whether it's inside or outside the classroom. Those are both important things to our kids. I really appreciate all of you coming this evening. I welcome you all to stay. However, we will take a brief intermission, so if you'd care to leave, this is your opportunity to do that.
I'm going to 32 days. We're going to get blinded.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.
We only had one typo.
Done. Oh, thanks.
So, yeah, you can take those if you'd like. That'd be great.
Right.
Know your daughter?
Apparently not.
Oh, okay.
Are you escaping? Oh, skate? Oh, cool. That sounds like fun. Yeah, that's great. Good luck. Presentation goes well. I'm sure it will. Right? How you doing? I'm good. Yeah. I'll stay for that.
You're sure you're zippy?
Absolutely.
Brothers, that's what you guys do.
You are not?
I'm not.
Oh.
Can't stay. I am, brother.
Oh. Let me wipe this off before we interact.
That was nasty.
Yeah.
Oh.
Tim, do phys teacher.
Okay.
You see me around more than you'll see him.
Just along for the ride today? Or
Yeah, I brought it.
Okay. I'm glad you came.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
I almost tripped over
I'm
you.
sure there's a lot of
That's all right. Just like
Jason and I both.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Everyone's.
I'm a
Everybody's
KSU
a zip.
grad.
Yes, you KSU. There's no campus.
It's probably best to be friends with the treasurer. I don't miss it at all. I'm low on the poll.
I told him he should wear something from Akron because I'm sure there's someone from Akron.
It was me.
Yeah. Probably a good idea.
I know that. Glad you didn't wear anything. Okay.
You don't have to cut it out or something.
Emma always really liked her.
Live in
Yeah, I remember that. Maggie.
Sherritville, yeah.
Okay.
Up in Akron.
Okay. All right. Are you still in school up there? or-
I graduated this last year.
Really, those how many years on that?
Okay. All right. They were just making the turn when I was going. We were talking about that with the lady that was here. Her husband.
Going back to that.
A lot of respected people from there, the area.
Absolutely. Originally from Sherricksville?
Originally from Canton. Probably 4 years.
How'd you pick Sherricksville?
Our dad works at the post office, moved down.
Okay.
And I was like, I love it down here so
Is that
much.
what Cotton Valley School?
Classmate.
Cotton Valley.
Nice.
You might want to
Yeah, that's a good.
Like we were in the city.
Yep.
Got to Sherricksville and it's different. I love it so much.
There's a lot of things to do out there. It looks like they're getting ready to go. Nice meeting you guys. Thank you. Okay, we will reconvene with a building report from the high school. So, Ms. Claxton, the floor is yours.
I'm running the slides. Yeah, I got you. All right. Well, first off, I want to thank the board and our administration for allowing us to have the opportunity to travel to Spain. We left June 7th and returned the 16th safely, along with all 27 students that we took with us and 5 chaperones. And we were very blessed to have an exceptional opportunity during this time that we spent away abroad post-COVID. So we wanted to present some of the things that we did along our travels, and then also just kind of share some of the responses that we received from students and then also from our chaperones. So this is our group of wonderful travelers. We had a couple of bumps along the way, but aside from bumps, and when I say bumps, they were just little, and we kept on going. The entire trip was phenomenal. This is one of those things that you call a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it provided enriching experiences for everyone who attended, just not our students. So as you can see, we visited various tour locations, and Mrs. LeBlanc is our fearless leader. She is the one who planned this entire trip, made sure that everything was in line, and without her leadership, this trip would not have ran as smoothly as it did. And so as we kind of talk about some of these different locations, I'm going to defer to her on how to pronounce things appropriately, because I was one of the few that went along and had no experience in Spanish. And it's amazing how humbling that is. To go to another country, to not understand the language, it really, one of the things that it did for me was that as I'm coming back, it really motivates me to make sure that we are enriching the experiences that our students receive, so that they aren't humbled anytime that they're interacting with someone who maybe doesn't have that same language, and we can kind of break down those barriers. We can also serve our students that we have in our building at a better capacity as well. So our tour locations, we started at Malaga and then went out of country over to Gibraltar, Seville, Granada, the Alhambra. One of the things I remember about the Alhambra is the heat. It was very warm when we were in the Alhambra. Don Quixote is from Consuegra. And then we finished our trip in Madrid. We actually were able to spend 2 days in Madrid and kind of get a little richer experience in that city than we did in some of the others. And it's amazing, as I was preparing this slideshow and presentation, I realized why we were all exhausted when we came back to the United States. We jam-packed, under Mrs. LeBlanc's leadership, so many experiences into that short period of time. And I'm going to share a lot of those with you right now. We're going to start at Malaga. And as you can see, the weather is gorgeous. The water is gorgeous. The people were very friendly. Colors were vibrant. And all of our students at this point are very refreshed and smiling and ready to roll. You can add anything you want.
The top right picture, we just happened to be there, and we have a tour director with us 24/7. That's bilingual. That's from the area. She was from Madrid, and we had a little extra time, and she was like, "If you want, there's like a fair going on right now. Just so happens that you're here the day that this festival is going on. Do you guys want to swing by?" And that was a real highlight for the kids, because it was like real. We walked through. We heard the music. We saw the festivities. And it was really cool. And so EF has these tour directors that we're with all the time, and they really enrich even more on tour, because we kind of find these little secret extra activities to do to kind of just, show the kids the culture even more.
Yeah, it's nice because not only are you seeing the commercial side of what you would typically see as you're traveling, but you see that authentic culture, that language, their music, their foods, when you get those kind of sideshows. We were blessed to be able to do that. Here a student is talking about this being their favorite trip ever, and that if they had an opportunity, they would go again at the drop of a hat. You'll see students here taste testing some unusual foods. They were challenged to kind of step out of their comfort zone and try some authentic dishes. They were also challenged to interact with students that they may not typically interact with when they're in the walls of New Philadelphia High School. And it's interesting because from day one, there were some relationships forged that, you know, I'm sitting there thinking in my mind, these guys would never have talked in the walls and hallways at New Philadelphia High School. And now they are lifelong friends. And they've built those relationships that will last for a lifetime. Gibraltar. There was a lot going on in Gibraltar. One of the things that the students really enjoyed was getting an additional passport stamp. I think anytime they got a stamp in their passport, it was exciting.
Heck yeah.
And they learned that, you know, do not lose that passport. That passport is on your body at all times. We got to obviously see the Rock of Gibraltar. We were able to eat, it's not in a cave, we ate in a cave later, but it's kind of an underground type restaurant that had very fresh seafood. They traveled through the sites of the underground tunnels that were used in World War II, and also got to see the monkeys. That was a highlight as well.
Yeah, I just want to add that so when we plan the trip, there's like a base, and then there are a bunch of additional excursions that we can embed into the trip. And this was one that we chose to add on for everybody, and I'm so glad we did, because like she said, going to another country, the kids thought that was so cool. They were like, text our parents to tell them like we're leaving the country, and they're going to be freaking out. But they did love getting the pass and the stamp in their passport. When we landed in the U.S., they were like, we don't get a stamp, and I was like, no, sweetie, you live here, you're from here. But we had Miss Jenkins, a history teacher, with us. So going through the caves and learning the importance of Gibraltar, like I had no idea how it was, you know, this important bargaining piece for countries. I had no idea. But also one of our standards for AP Spanish is culture comparison. So this was so cool because we were going from, wait, we just were learning, you know, the money in Spain and the customs in Spain, and then like, oh, we're not in Spain anymore, we're in the UK. So seeing that like right away was really awesome. That's something that we hope to do again in the future.
So one thing that's just kind of like off task, and I didn't take a picture of this, but the kids found fascinating, was that things that we take for granted in the United States aren't things that you take for granted when you go elsewhere. So as we are trying to re-enter back into Spain and we're standing in line, there's a porta pot right there as you come into Spain. Now, that's not unusual. We see porta pots in the United States, but this one is coin operated. You had to pay €1 to use the bathroom. So that was something that, you know, we just take for granted that you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. And the kids learned real quick that, you know, sometimes those customs are a little bit different in another country. So that's kind of a sidebar. This student felt that going into the British territory was one of the best things that they saw, but the best part of Spain, and I want to draw this to your attention right there in the mid slide, one of the best parts about Spain was I got to go and experience it with my teachers and classmates. Most I haven't really talked to. And you're going to see a constant theme throughout this was that our guide was great about starting the day, you know, hola, 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 where's my piña? And piña is your family. And she would call us all a family. And it's amazing how the more you tell someone it's a reality, the more they believe it. So you tell them they're family, they became a family. They talked as if they were a family. They acted as if they were a family. And then secondly, you always see the I'm very grateful. All of the kids were so grateful for the opportunity. Seville, one of the highlights you'll see over here on the right, that if you are a Game of Thrones fan, I've not watched it, so it's news to me, but that is where they shot some of the scenes for Game of Thrones. So the kids were ecstatic to be there at that area. But one of the things that I remember about Seville was that it's very historic. A lot of rich culture, and then this was also the stop in which the kids were challenged to eat tapas, which are the appetizers, and to try really awkward things. And there were some really awkward foods that were tasted.
They were very brave, though. They were all about it. Very awkward.
So here you see some of those amazing foods, and additionally, kind of up in the right corner, over just a little bit, you see the kids using the menu and ordering in Spanish. They were really pushing their boundaries of what they've learned here and interacting with those who lived there. The fish, the octopus, the eating in a cave, the traditional soups and breads, and then of course the jamon. You see them in the marketplace shaving off the really thin slices of ham, something that they're very well known for. So of course, you know, once in a lifetime experience, immersed in the culture, bonding with classmates, would go again in a heartbeat. Just some of those phrases that you consistently see. Granada and Alhambra. I don't want to say this was kind of like the party place, but this was the place where we got to see the dancing and the music and the gypsies and more of interaction with, I don't want to use the word natives. What's the word I want to use? Those that live, like the locals. A lot of interactions with the people that lived there. There was a scavenger hunt, and they had to travel around Granada and interact with people and ask questions and learn where things were, and had a great time. Kids really enjoyed their time there.
This was in a student survey. These two things were probably at the top of most of. I would say, what was your favorite thing? A lot of the students said the scavenger hunt. So they were set free on their own in groups, and they had tasks that they had to figure out. They had to find a local and ask them to take a photo of them. They had to find their way, you know, from point A to point B, and if they had to stop and ask directions. So it was kind of like they had got their footing a little bit, and now they were kind of forced to really use their Spanish. And they did a great job. Everyone made it to point B. They all got there. And then also the picture you see, we went to a flamenco show, and this was like a super authentic flamenco show. And we learned the history of how, you know, when the Christians were saying everyone had to be a Christian, and these gypsies went into the caves and they built their homes there, and they're still there. They still live in the caves. They still run these shows. They have a little restaurant. So that was really awesome to see. It was such a like close, tiny, intimate experience, but it was very intense watching these dancers because they emote everything. Like you feel what they're feeling. It's very, you know, authentic. So that was also a huge highlight.
You know, one of the biggest things is them saying it's a great opportunity, and future students should travel. You should have a wide range of things to do and try. You know, that's not a message that we're always trying to tell our students is, you know, and I already have it in my freshman orientation. I already have it in my class meetings. You know, take advantage of opportunities. This is your safe time. This is your time to flop on your face. This is your time to try something new. This is your time to make friends and have experiences. And it was great for the students to go overseas and live that. And then come back and actually tell us what we've been telling them. That's good. Don Quixote. Our young men down here in the corner really got into Don Quixote. As we were traveling to this location, we were talking a lot about the story, talking about the history of the story, and then, of course, seeing the windmills, visiting all the locations. I'll let you talk a little bit more.
Yeah, so this was like a really great little kind of extra. So we were just traveling, had a long traveling day to Madrid, And EF is an educational car company, and so we've got to make a stop anyway for lunch, for restrooms, all those things. And so they had a stop in Prince Vigra. So on the way there, our tour director was talking about, the story, the famous painting, all of the adaptations, and two of our boys in the picture there even read on the bus. We have a little microphone, and they read and acted out a scene from Don Quixote. We had our narrator, and it was hysterical. And they really they got into it. They gave it their all. So then when we're there, it meant more to them because they were familiarized with the story and the art and all that stuff. So it was a really cool way to kind of build that into just a regular pit stop.
And believe it or not, there were a couple of our shyer young men.
Yeah.
To begin with.
Yeah.
To begin with. I'll say that. You see up there waiting 2 long years. And that's something that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But it's absolutely worth it. What was so critical to this being a successful trip was the amount of planning that was done on the backside, the amount of preparation that was done on the backside, the amount of communication that was done prior to the trip. And that was one thing that our guide told us, was that she has not had a group that was as prepared as we were, and as on time as we were, and as positive as our kids and staff were. And so I'm so proud of them in that aspect. But getting to go into some of these cathedrals, we wonder sometimes, how seriously do our students take some of those experiences? And when they went into the cathedrals and they went into the museums, they were so respectful and so cognizant of being in another country and recognizing how solemn and serious those things were. And I can't say enough how proud I was of everyone.
My favorite story is when we went to the Alhambra, which is the Moorish palace. But one of the boys, we walked in, he was like, "This is dope," and I was just like that, a high school boy being like, "This is dope." You were it meant everything. They were definitely engaged.
And then, of course, we get to Madrid, which is not only rich in culture, but then also has that contemporary piece. They had a park that had a lot of vegetation and trees and flowers. And then, of course, in the center had kind of a pond where the kids could get in boats and they could have that leisure, row around that lake. But then also, go to a museum and see paintings that you see in textbooks or that you hear about in your art classes, and they're there on the walls. And it was amazing just to watch their eyes get real big and just to be excited about all of that. Of course, they had shopping too.
The girls were ready for the shopping. Prior to this, we've been in kind of more quaint cities, I would say. We were in a beach town, we were in these beautiful, and so this was really the big city. And we did run our tour in reverse, normally we're supposed to kind of start here and then, but it was actually great to end with this, and they could get familiar with the city the first day, and then they were there again the second day. We had some free time and flexibility for them to kind of branch out, and they were kind of comfortable knowing where things were. So it was a really great way.
They got a little more savvy with their money skills too as time went on. Again, friendships, opportunities, elaborate history. You see Pina, dedication, being prepared. And then, of course, it is still an adventure. For them, it was one of those new experiences that, you can read about this in a history book, or you can learn in your Spanish class or your French class, but to actually be able to go and experience it is learning at a whole other level. We had some of our chaperones also share, just talking about how students have grown seamlessly. It was seamless. Our trip was seamless. Just everything was thought out. It was educationally based with those social aspects built in as well. And as you can see, lots of smiles on faces. And the students impressed us. you know, sometimes you're not really sure how they're going to feel. I know when I left, I was nervous. I was very nervous. This was something I'd never been overseas. And, you know, I think of the one student who on the plane had never been on a plane before. And when we went to take off, you know, he's like, this is like a roller coaster. I mean, just every new experience that they had was, for me, a win. And for me, just the reason why we do this.
This is my own testimonial, so I feel like I could like cry like talking about it. Like that's how emotional I get. But it's so much more like, obviously as a Spanish teacher, like I'm like a nerd and I want to see them like practicing their Spanish, and that is awesome to see. But it's, you can't explain it, because I was like, just wait, Crystal, just wait. Like you're gonna see. But you just can't explain how it is watching them travel. Most of them for the first time without their parents. So, like I said, you're seeing them like take these little steps into like adulthood, like you really are. They've got to solve conflicts. You know, they've got to manage their money. They've got to, you know, try to figure out the language. And we obviously are there for them, but we also do try to stay hands off and you know, kind of give them that push. Like, oh, your hotel bed is broken. You better go down to the front desk. You better go tell them. You know, we try to give them the opportunity to, you know, kind of do things on their own. And then the relationship piece is just something. This is my third time leading students on a trip, and it never gets any less amazing to see kids that you have in class that may have been in the same class together all year and never spoke to each other. Like, and they are, you know, becoming, yes, they're literally becoming best friends. And it's, sometimes you see the little combinations of friend groups and you're like, like I didn't see that one coming, but it is so awesome. And we had a couple students who, like two I can think of in particular, that were students that, you know, maybe had a hard time interacting with others. And I worried, like when I was putting us in our small groups, I worried, you know, how are they going to do? And both of these boys had the trip of their life. Like the other kids were celebrating their victories. They were smiling. They were putting themselves out there. They were, you know, going up to our tour director and asking questions. You know, I want to do this, you know, asking. They just honestly had the trip of a lifetime. And it was just like, it would just make you cry, because it was just amazing to watch them grow like in 9 days. But it felt like, I don't know, but it was awesome.
Just the socializing, being engaged and present. You know, at school, people are focused on their phones. The things that we saw that kids were doing with their phones was taking pictures of everything, so that they could take those back home. And I know one of the things that Mrs. LeBlanc asked them to do was to kind of keep a daily diary. And so they did that. They kept that kind of running record of the experiences that they were having, and had an exciting time. You see one grumpy face, but you know, okay.
We won't lie to you. We won't lie to you. They're grumpy.
So when I was talking to one of our student workers today who went on this trip, because he knew, you know, I had been talking about presenting, his comment to me was, you better do a very good job. All I've got to say is you better do a very good job, because he will be a senior in 2024 and he wants to go again. So I guess what I'm posing to you is we would like to, you know, kind of have you consider coming to us in 2024, allowing the world to embrace New Philadelphia High School again, and planning a trip abroad.
And one thing I want to add, because we were, you know, COVID obviously messed things up, but if we were to start planning, normally we do plan 2 years in advance. That gives time for them to break their payments into a really manageable price. So the idea is with every 2 years, you have that momentum. So kids were just in Spain. They were posting all over social media. I'm posting on my teacher Instagram, all of those things. So you have this kind of buzz going. And if we were to, you know, submit an itinerary for a 24 trip, we would have a meeting where they could be signing up this fall. So that buzz, that excitement is there. And I mean, last time we filled a bus the first night. Like, it's crazy to see. So that's why every 2 years kind of seems to be the best plan for like keeping that momentum going. So
we would just like for you to keep that in the back of your mind as we are having conversations.
Well, it sounds like you should get with Ms. Wentworth and find out what the timeline is to submit your requests and proposals to the
Most certainly will.
superintendent's office so we can approve them here at the board level.
Yeah, this is really good. Thank you so much. It's good to see the pictures and hear the tangibles, but also like all the little other stuff, and so it seems like a great trip. Thanks so much for sharing it and taking it
to each of you. I just didn't want to read it to you.
Yeah, it's good.
It'd be terrific if you could get up to Amy so it could be in the drive, and that way Danny and Dan can see it.
Yeah.
Great.
I know, Trista, it is French and everything. Do they have trips like this too?
They are looking at broaching the idea of maybe planning a trip as well. So that would be something that we would want to talk about.
The French teacher actually emailed me today. And
Okay.
said, hey, can we talk about this?
And I think it was because the board minutes or the board agenda came out and they saw the presentation. So
I think the most recent one was to Canada, wasn't it? To Quebec?
That's what she's talking about again.
Okay.
She traveled some in the past, but she's had little babies, and we combined for this being in France in 2018.
So ideally,
Oh, wow.
ideally, it'd be nice every year if that were feasible. I just don't know how feasible that is. Those are conversations for,
So it'd be nice for the high school principal to be able to travel internationally every summer. That's what you're telling me.
It was amazing. I wondered why I was exhausted when I came back until I started working on this. And then I was like, oh, that's why. All of that in 9 days.
It's a lot.
But it was such an enriching and valuable exhaustion.
Yeah.
Just to see the kids.
Well, that's great.
So.
Oh, that's awesome. There's so much value that comes from going out of the country. I mean, just experiencing the culture, the perspective you have for your own country, and just it's invaluable. I mean, you can talk and teach a lot, and I know we do a good job trying to do that, but experiencing that in person is extremely valuable. So thanks for taking that on. It'd also be easy to say, hey, I'd like to have my summer and not have to devote any extra time to any of this either. So appreciate that.
Mrs. LeBlanc, how many trips have you been on?
This is the third one.
Third one, great.
Yes. Yeah. The first one post-COVID, but EF did send me on a weekend to Portugal in November. So I had that international travel with COVID under my belt. So we did this, we can do anything, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Very good. Very good.
If you want to plan a trip to Italy, Chris can probably
Yeah, I
be your host for you.
Thanks, Brody.
Okay. It does not appear as if there is any public participation this evening.
Accurate.
Right.
So we're moving right along to the treasurer's report.
That's a really hard act to follow. I'm so boring compared to that. But I have, the first thing I have is to discuss with you the scholarship fund expectation. And in the drive, all of the scholarship information has been placed in there. There was a typo on it. I put the bank uniforms and it was band uniforms. So there is one scholarship that is designated for band uniforms. And of course, we're buying new band uniforms right now. So Mr. Furby's requested that he can use $3,000 of that. What I did was I took and did the same type of expectation that we did 4 years ago. I took the balances that we had and the investments that we have currently, figured them at about a 2.5% interest rate. That's the expectation we would like to achieve, which I think right now as the rates go up, we'll be able to easily achieve that. And then we are not able to spend principal on Briggs and Garrett scholarships. So I deducted the principal from those fund balances. I show the amount that's available, and then I'm hoping that everyone is in agreement that in May of 23 we can give a $30,000 $30,000 towards Briggs scholarships, 10 towards Garrett, and then in 24 another 35, increase that to 35, and 10 towards the Garrett scholarships, and the same thing in 25, and then we'll do another evaluation in 3 years out. Does anybody have any questions on that?
The result of that would be to actually increase the principal in the fund. Since we're not spending.
Well, the principal is established. The principal is the amount that was
But if we're only
put
spending
in on
30
the
of the
trust.
95.
It leaves a small amount available for scholarships so that we don't spend down, because what if our interest rate plummets?
Well, I'm just asking. So then can we get, we're not spending all the interest that's being earned.
Yes.
So that percentage, whatever that number is, does that get locked up into the non-distributable part, or
No.
it's calculated or tracked separately?
It's tracked separately.
Okay.
So it is free to increase those scholarships in the future. But when we originally did this, Mr. Weaver and I sat down and discussed it, and we decided we wanted to leave some of that interest set aside so that if rates dropped, we were still able in a year where we didn't have the income to give the same scholarships.
I think that sounds very reasonable to me.
I think it's one of those things, if you are conservative there, you can always go back and adjust upward. It's way easier to do that than to go the other way, than to overshoot, figure you're going to get a higher return, and then you don't, and then you go and cut it a year. So.
Sounds good.
Julie, this reflects the additional amount from the Briggs.
That's where it was, what I was going to say next. We got an additional $71,000 from Briggs. Heir passed away this year, and so from that we got an additional $71,000 in that scholarship, and so that's the reason for discussing the increase in our scholarship allocation to the foundation. Any other questions?
But I think if anyone wanted to look through that more, we probably wouldn't need to communicate anything to the foundation to the Quaker Foundation until later in the year when those amounts get established. If there are thoughts or other thoughts, I think it seems solid rationale to me, but for the rest of you, if you want to take a look and have any other feedback.
Okay. If there aren't any more questions on that, I'll move on to the balance of my report. In the drive, you have the June financial statement, the key indicator, the cash flow, the check register, and keep in mind that June 30 is our fiscal year end. So that's like this is the big time for my office. We're still working on opening back up and getting everything realigned. So all these balances are in balance. All of our budgets and appropriations and estimated resources are right in line with where they should be. You also have the QDA financial reports and the QPA financial reports. They also have a 6/30 year end, so those are the entire year for fiscal 22. You have the bank reconciliation. Everything is in balance. Our Mastercard points and limits, the auditors require me to provide that to you each month just so that you have eyes on it. We have a vision services contract with Patricia Cook at a rate of $150 an hour. Patricia was part of a company that we used previously, and so was the next one where it says Wilson's Orientation and Mobility. Both of those individuals were part of a company that we have been using, and that company no longer exists. So we're requesting approval for those contracts. Mrs. Cook's is $150 an hour. Mrs. Wilson's is $200 an hour. Both of those are for special services. I have the Kennedy Insurance invoice for the second semi-annual installment at $66,753. The ECOESC contract for our fiscal year services at 57,148.58. Those services are deducted out of our state foundation payments. And we have our annual OMRISA contract at 79,367.58. Last month, I requested advances from the general fund to all of the other funds that I needed to advance to. So this month, I'm actually reversing and returning that advance. And I'm requesting approval of the temporary supplemental contract for Taylor Logothetitis for coverage for maternity leave for Jennifer Hall at $500 a week for up to 6 weeks, effective August 15th. And then we have the addendum, which is to approve the Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital sports medicine contract for the athletic trainer. And incidentally, there's no dollar amount tied to this. The contract prior to this was about $18,000 a year. The Cleveland Clinic has decided that they're not charging us. They are gifting some advertising in an amount of about $8,400, and the rest of it they're assuming that responsibility. So the total of this value is about $58,000.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Weaver and Mr. McMath. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, that's terrific that the clinic's willing to front that those services to us. Certainly that's been beneficial to the kids in the district over the years. And Mr. Steele does a great job.
First class service.
It is.
Absolutely.
It's better than that.
It is. I know Megan had to use that a few times. And boy, just really great that he was there.
Mm-hmm.
Really was. That's terrific. I didn't realize they were pumping us that. Super. Anything else for Julie? Please call the roll.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. McMath?
Yes.
Mr. France?
Yes. Personnel.
Motion carries.
I'm going to start the personnel section by sharing that Mrs. Sharon Rickley, who's been a teacher with the district for many, many years, did submit a letter of retirement effective September 30th. That came late last week. Just want to acknowledge the service that she's provided to our students and to our district. It's going to be a tough one to fill for sure. We had some additional resignations that are listed there. As far as hirings, we're going to hire Ed Marsh again as our part-time activities director. We have 4 new teachers. One is an educational interpreter that we are hiring to fill some of these open positions that we have. A couple classified staff, including our new homeless liaison support person who will be managing the grant funds that we have and ensuring that those resources get distributed to our students who are experiencing homelessness. So we're very excited about that. Also have listed some supplementals, some summer school contracts, and we are starting our list of substitutes, both teachers, bus drivers, or I should say teachers, bus drivers, and then also our classified substitutes. So we are very excited that that list is already getting started. Some athletic volunteers and some classroom volunteers round out the personnel section for approval.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Brand. Is there anything you'd like to share with the board before we decide whether or not to hire you this evening?
Thankful to be here. Appreciate it. Excited to Philly.
Mr. Brand's brother is a proud Zep.
That seems to be the theme here tonight.
That is the theme
Mr.
this
Brand.
evening.
So yes, we are very excited to have Mr. Brand joining us at the high school. He's going to be a great addition to our team.
Awesome. Anything else? Please call the roll. Oh,
I'm
sorry, Todd.
I just want to second what Amy was saying about Mrs. Ricklick and just thank her for her services for 20 years. And she was incredible with students out in the community. And I know Memorial Day and different things that she did with with students. My kids were both bummed that they didn't get to have her, but I know that she was beloved, and we wish her the best for sure in her retirement.
Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mr. McMath,
Yes.
Mr. France,
Yes.
motion carries.
Are there any committee reports that we need, information we need to bring before the board this evening?
Just draw your attention to the fact that the Business Advisory Council minutes are available online at the ESC website.
Perfect. Mr. Williams, do you have a report for us this evening?
Not really, just working on professional development. And earlier, the word rigor was brought up. So just to let the board know that's here, that's our focus this year. Not just, and when I say rigor, not just making things harder, but challenging students at the levels they should be challenged at too. So a student on IEP can have a level of rigor as well. So making sure K-12, all subject levels are rigorous and challenging for our students, pushing them to be the best they can. And that's what our PD all this year is gonna focus on. So that's kind of my project right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Superintendent's report.
I have a few items on the superintendent's report. The first is to approve the resolution adopting a Calamity Day alternative makeup plan, which we affectionately call Blizzard Bags. That is per our negotiated agreement and Ohio school law. Want to approve the Harkidus Interagency Agreement and Transition Agreement. The exhibits are in the folder. This is an annual thing that we approve to work with Harkidus. And then the first reading of several board policies that we are updating. The policy committee met and discussed those. They are also located in the draft.
A motion to approve?
So moved.
Is that Todd?
Yep.
Mr. McMath. And a second, Mr. Weaver. Any questions? Please call the roll.
Mr. McMath,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mr. France,
Yes.
motion carries.
Do I have a motion to move into executive session to consider matters required to be kept confidential with no action to follow?
So moved.
And a second?
Yes.
Very good. Call the roll.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mr. McMath,
Yes.
Mr. France,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you all for coming.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming.